In the quiet settlement of Zamcat, everything seemed simple. Old wooden houses, rusty fences, the smell of freshly cut grass. Eliza, a 24-year-old mechanic, had moved here to start over. Without a past, without expectations, without the weight of other people's eyes. But one chance encounter with a neighbor woman named Anna disrupted his steady rhythm. A garden, a leaking hose, tired eyes that concealed more than words could say. From that moment on, their stories began to intertwine, like two cracked but still living branches. Eliza had arrived in the village in early spring, when snow still lingered in the shadows, and the air already smelled of thawing water. He rented an old house with peeling paint and a creaky floor, bringing with him only his tools, a couple of boxes, and the hope for peace. By day, he worked in a small workshop, Lesnoy Auto Service, fixing the neighbors' cars, changing oil, hammering out dents. Nothing glamorous, but honest work. You see a fault, get your hands dirty, and bring a thing back to life. Evenings he spent alone on the veranda with a mug of tea, listening to the hum of passing trucks. Days went by this way, until one hot June afternoon he saw her. Anna was kneeling by a flowerbed next door. The leaking hose sprayed water everywhere. Splashes turned the earth to mud, soaking her jeans. She looked determined, but behind it was weariness, a heaviness, as though every step carried an invisible burden. Eliza didn't want to seem intrusive, but something in her gaze stopped him. He lifted his tool bag and, trying to keep his tone gentle, called out, "Need a hand?" Anna flinched, then looked up. Her eyes were light gray, like a lake on a cloudy day. She hesitated for a second, as if weighing whether to trust him, then finally nodded. Crossing the path carefully to avoid the flowers, Eliza bent to the hose. It was cracked at the joint. A few movements, and he shut off the water, pulled out a knife and electrical tape. "We'll fix it temporarily, but it's better to replace," he said. Anna smiled faintly. "Thank you. No problem. I'm Eliza, by the way. I live 2 houses down," with a catastrophic excuse for a garden. She gave a quiet laugh. "Anna, and your garden's not that bad." After that first meeting, Eliza only noticed Anna from afar for several days. In the mornings, she fetched her mail. In the evenings, she watered her flowers, avoiding the daytime heat. Her movements had precision, the habits of someone who lived by routine, not inspiration. He didn't rush, didn't want to pressure her, but each time he passed, something drew his eyes to her house. One evening, when the sun was already leaning toward the horizon, Eliza saw Anna fussing with the porch. A step board had rotted, splinters sticking out ready to cut someone's foot. She held a hammer, staring at the wood as if it were a puzzle without a solution. He crossed the street before it got too dark. "You'll only hurt yourself," he said softly. "This needs replacing altogether." Anna wiped her hair back with her hand, leaving a dark streak on her cheek, and answered almost automatically. "I can manage, but you're right, the step was dangerous." Eliza put his tool bag down. "I've got a good board in my garage. 2 hands are better than 1, and I've got the tools." She looked at him tiredly, sighed, and simply stepped aside, sitting on the top step, legs tucked under. She watched as he pulled the rotten board out, measured, sawed, fastened a new one. Warm wind ruffled her hair. The voices of neighbors mixed with distant children's laughter. "Do you do this professionally?" she asked quietly. "Almost." Eliza smiled, hammering in a nail. "I'm a mechanic, but I've fixed things since childhood. My mom raised me alone. Money was tight, had to learn to manage." Anna lowered her eyes to her hands, hiding them in her sweatshirt sleeves, though it was still warm. "That must have been hard." "It was, but it teaches you to value what holds together," he replied. When the work was done, he wiped sweat from his forehead. "All set. Treat the wood and it'll last 5 years." Anna looked at the smooth board, then at him. "Thank you," she said, and instead of saying goodbye, she suddenly added, "Want some lemonade? I made some this morning." Eliza was surprised, but nodded. Inside, the house was cooler, but the air felt dense, as if even the space itself was holding its breath. Everything was neat, almost too neat. Clean shelves, folded belongings. On the mantel, a folded flag, photographs, frames with medals. On one wall, a wedding portrait. Anna in white, happy, beside a young man in uniform. Eliza recognized the insignia of the airborne troops. Anna noticed his gaze. "My husband," she said carefully, setting 2 glasses of lemonade with clinking ice cubes on the table. "Andre." She paused. Her voice trembled. "He served 3 tours. Came back whole, not a scratch." She gave a short, bitter smile. 6 weeks ago, an accident. Drunk driver. Red light. Andre was just coming back from the store. He bought ice cream. My favorite. Chocolate mint. They said it was instant." She stared at the condensation running down the glass, as though trying to read an answer in the droplets. Eliza stayed silent. He didn't know what to say. Instead, he took a sip of the lemonade. Sour, a little too sweet, but strangely right at that moment. A long pause. Outside, someone was mowing grass. A normal sound that suddenly seemed alien. Anna gave a dry laugh. "Sorry, I'm not the best company. Everyone tells me, go out, talk to people, distract yourself." She gestured at herself, at the room. "But here I am." "You're fine," Eliza said quietly. "You don't need to be anyone else." Anna lifted her eyes, red but without tears. "They all say it's time to let go. As if grief has an expiration date. As if I should wake up and accept that the person I built a life with is gone." "There is no deadline," he answered without thinking. "We just learn to carry it." She looked at him for a long time, as though she wanted to ask how he knew what he had lost to be able to say that, but she didn't. She only gave a faint nod. Eliza finished his lemonade and stood. "If you ever need anything, day or night, just knock," he said. Anna walked him to the door, moving slowly, as though through water. "Thank you, Eliza," she said quietly. He smiled. "Always." Outside, the evening air was heavy, warm. The door closed softly behind him, but somehow it didn't feel final. Days after their talk went on quietly. They mostly saw each other from a distance. A slight nod in the morning, a small wave in the evening. Anna kept to her routines, watering flowers, taking out the trash, collecting the mail. It seemed like she clung to order as to a lifeline. Eliza didn't push, but noticed how each time he passed her house, a kind of warm concern stirred in him, almost anxiety. One evening, at sunset, he saw her on the porch again. The step he'd replaced was holding strong, but now she was struggling with the loose railing. Golden light softened everything, yet her frustration was plain. She looked up when he approached, and didn't resist when he offered help. "Tell me," she asked while he tightened the brackets, "have you ever been afraid to start over?" Eliza paused, straightened a nail. "Of course, but sometimes it's the only way to figure out who you are. When no one's watching, no one knows your past." Anna lowered her eyes. "I guess I'm starting over too. Only I don't know which way to go." He couldn't find the right words, so he just kept working. That was their way of talking. Through nails, boards, repairs. That evening, a storm front rolled in. The sky turned an unnatural green-gray, the air heavy, thick with static. Forecasts warned of strong winds, but it was nothing unusual for a Moscow region summer. Eliza stood at his window, watching sheets of rain crash down. Suddenly, he noticed Anna's garage gates flapping wildly, nearly torn from their hinges. Inside were likely tools, furniture, things that could be ruined. He didn't think. He grabbed his jacket and ran across the street. The rain lashed his face like needles, mud squelching under his boots. He pounded on her door. "Anna, your garage." The door flew open at once. Anna stood barefoot, in old jeans and a stretched hoodie with an emblem. Judging by the size, it had been Andre's. Her hair was already damp from the dampness, her eyes filled with worry and fatigue. "I know," she shouted over the wind. "It won't shut. The frame's warped. Stay inside," he yelled back. "I'll handle it." He ran to the garage. Up close, it was worse. The metal frame bent, the gate skewed, the wind tearing at it. He threw his weight against it, shoved the door shut, wedged a beam to hold it. His boots slipped on wet concrete, his hands shook with strain, but at last the gate jammed into place, fixed, for now. It would hold until morning. When he returned to the porch, he was soaked through. Water streamed from his hair, clothes clinging to him. Anna was waiting with a towel. "You're insane," she said, but there was warmth and surprise in her voice. "Couldn't let everything get ruined," he muttered, shivering. She stepped aside, letting him in. The storm raged outside, thunder rolling, lights flickering. Take off your shoes, she said. Sit by the heater. I'll bring something dry. She disappeared into the hallway and returned with a t-shirt and sweatpants. They might be big, she said, swallowing hard. But they're dry. Alizé realized immediately. They were Andre's. He accepted them carefully, as if they were fragile. Thank you. I'll be careful. In the bathroom, he changed. The clothes smelled faintly of detergent and something else, almost like a memory. When he came back, Anna was curled up on the sofa, knees pulled to her chest, wrapped in a blanket, as though she wanted to take up less space in the world. He sat in the armchair opposite, silent. The storm hammered at the windows, flashes of lightning outlining her profile. And then she spoke, softly, almost inaudibly. I'm 26, and I'm already a widow. Funny, isn't it? The love of my life, and it's over. Alizé didn't interrupt. They all think I'm strong, she went on. They say, you'll meet someone else. Andre would want you to be happy. Time heals. Words like a band-aid on a broken bone. Her voice grew sharper, as if you can just replace a person like a broken thing. She hunched her shoulders, staring out the window where rain traced paths down the glass. I don't want to move on.